Hello and welcome to another episode of the Housemarque HouseCast. Today with us, as before, is the game director of Returnal. Welcome back, Harry Kruger.
Thanks for having me back, Miguel.
So today I'd like to discuss a little bit about the transformation of Housemarque as a company from our past catalog into, well, essentially what is Returnal. So the main topics are really bringing that core Housemarque experience with bullet hell stuff, this very arcadey gameplay, including controls, the way the game plays, essentially from the top down and the side scrolling now into third person. Let's start with just taking those things into third person. Was that easy, or what's the thinking behind that?
I think with Returnal, of course, we are trying to be really bold and ambitious and explore entirely new things that we haven't done before. But at the same time, we are being mindful of sticking to our strengths, of course. So we have accumulated a lot of knowledge, perhaps even a little bit of wisdom in how to craft these arcade experiences over the last 10 years. And of course, we are being mindful of sticking to those strengths and just transferring those to a more, let's say, AAA package or to a third-person perspective. Naturally, there's been quite a few interesting challenges on that road. I think it all comes down to the fact that, yes, most of our games during this last 10-year period, during the arcade era, have been mostly 2D experiences, right? So usually confined to a simple 2D playfield, and lots of clean kind of like obstacles and challenges to overcome, lots of explosive action. And now we just have like this extra dimension, well, literally an extra dimension of both ambition and complexity to the mix. We basically have verticality in our levels now, and we're actually supporting that with our moveset. I mean, you can jump around quite, you can do a ledge vaulting, you have a hook shot, you can traverse these environments with a large amount of kinetic energy. And it's been quite interesting to take a lot of the other really focused kind of design lessons that we've accumulated and apply them to this new package.
I heard a lot of interesting tidbits of information there, so let me try to grab on to one or two of them. You mentioned things like grappling hook, or what was that? Grapple?
Yeah, like a hook shot.
Yeah, that's right, a hook shot. So how does that all play into the bigger scheme of things? I'm assuming you get to traverse a lot of different levels with verticality. Okay, first of all, tell me about the controls. We'll get into levels next.
Generally, with all our games, we have strived to make the controls feel as responsive and tight as possible, right? So I think that there is a sacred and unspoken bond between the player and the controller, and that is something that always demands reverence, right? And in my opinion, a good control scheme is like a good camera. If it's working well, it's entirely invisible. Players should not have to be that fully mindful and aware of what their fingers are doing. It should be a natural extension, an intuitive action that comes from just translating what you want to do to seeing it happen on screen. One thing that's worth mentioning here is our use of the adaptive triggers. So clearly we're always very excited to jump on any new features that come with new hardware and all the possibilities, of course. And very early on, we identified an opportunity to go with the adaptive triggers to allow to have this dual functionality with one button, right? Because you have pretty good tactile feedback there, and you can press it halfway to do the traditional focus aim, and then it clicks over and enters the alt fire mode. So that's something that's been designed to be, again, very intuitive and seamless. That being said, we do understand that a lot of players might prefer a more traditional controller layout. And for that reason, we do have support for fully customizable controls, so players can tailor the experience to suit them as they see fit.
very good to hear about the customization options. I think all of the new things are very cool, and as we are getting used to the new controller now, it's very cool to have the option of adaptive triggers and haptics and the new placement. And I know that Housemarque's very mechanically driven, so it's cool that we're testing these things out. Well, going into the last part here, Housemarque is known for that intense bullet hell type of action. Have we been able to translate it now? Like, what's your take on it? Is it possible to bring that to this new type of experience, or is it something different?
A lot of our inspiration has come from more traditional kind of bullet hell games that are mostly 2D in nature, just like our previous games as well. And with that 2D kind of playfield comes this extra kind of simplicity and, of course, immediacy with the gameplay. I mean, you have a bird's eye view usually of the gameplay field. You can see bullets coming from all directions. You have this intuitive understanding of kind of the threat, and the avoidance gameplay is very clean. You can kind of visualize all these pathways opening up through the bullets that you then navigate through, and it creates a really, really satisfying kind of avoidance experience, right, with all the bullets. Yeah, so now we have, of course, the third dimension, and we have a lot of verticality in our levels, which means that any bullet pattern that would be shot to you in a traditional manner, you could just jump over it. So there's a lot of ways to kind of eliminate that traditional avoidance gameplay, and that's what we've been trying to recreate in this 3D space now. And it's kind of like we've been trying to find a unique kind of flavor of bullet hell, or a unique challenge that every enemy kind of brings into the mix, and then finding tasteful ways to combine these in our levels. One other thing here to be mindful of is also the player's awareness. So it's like the player's attention is almost like the most valuable currency that you can spend in an action game, right? And you have a finite amount of that. And if the player's attention is spent like 100% on 3 bullets coming in front of them, they don't have any attention left for the bullets that are coming to their sides. And this translates, of course, to all of our other gameplay systems, that how to create this intuitive kind of awareness of incoming threats from all directions. That's been another new challenge for us to solve. And we rely a little bit on indicators, of course, and audio design with the 3D presence has helped a little bit with this too, just bringing that spatial awareness and pinpointing exactly where everything is coming from, like above or below you or from the sides. But ultimately, it does come down to just really meticulously crafting our challenges and iterating over those until they feel right. With our previous games and with traditional bullet hell scenarios, the majority of the experience is fairly structured and predictable. You can learn it and you can become better at it over time, and there's a satisfying growth you can have with that. With a roguelike formula, we've exchanged that for a feeling of surprise that you will get in a way. So every time that you play the game, it is going to be different. Even the bullet hell challenges are going to be layered in slightly different ways. That's been another interesting challenge for us. So it's not that you just have one biome or one environment to just make it feel good. You need to have potentially thousands of these permutations, all being combined gracefully to create a consistently engaging experience.
So wrapping up, Harry, thank you again. This has been very interesting hearing about, what this Housemarque transition has been, and can't wait to see it take full flight when Returnal launches on PS5 very soon. Thanks again, Harry.
Thanks, Mikael.
PlayStation